Raise your hand if you've ever yelled at a piece of glass and plastic because your friend's face froze mid-laugh during a vital debate about whether hot dogs are sandwiches. Yeah, us too. We take this for granted. A tiny slab in our pocket lets us whisper secrets to someone sipping espresso in Tokyo, argue with a relative in Toronto about pineapple on pizza, or crucially, order emergency tacos at 2 a.m. But stop. Really stop. Think about it. Your voice, just vibrations in air, somehow becomes electrical impulses, zips through wires, satellites, or invisible waves, crosses continents and oceans, and reforms as sound in someone else's ear, almost instantly. How is that not magic? Well, folks, it's not magic. It's science. And today, on What Is, we're diving deep into the glorious, slightly weird, wonderfully human story of the telephone. From spilt acid to satellite selfies, we're tracing how we learned to shout into a box and be heard worldwide, and stick around till the end for today's bonus fact. Let's get connected. Origins. When Mr. Watson, come here, wasn't just a polite request. Imagine Boston, 1876. Not the bustling hub of clam chowder and Red Sox dreams we know today, but a city gaslit by ingenuity and the fierce smell of ozone from early electrical experiments. Our hero, Alexander Graham Bell. Now, before you picture a stern Victorian gentleman, know this: Bell was a teacher of the deaf, deeply passionate about helping people communicate. His wife Mabel was deaf. His mother was deaf. Sound, or the lack thereof, was his obsession. He wasn't trying to invent a device for chatting about the weather. He was trying to build a harmonic telegraph, a way to send multiple telegraph messages simultaneously over one wire using different pitches. Think of it like sending multiple radio stations down a single road. But Bell kept getting distracted. He kept hearing speech, not just dots and dashes, but the complex, messy beauty of human voice, the sighs, the laughs, the ums. He wondered, could we send speech this way? He tinkered with membranes, electromagnets, and liquids that conducted electricity when vibrated by sound. Enter Thomas Watson, his patient and long-suffering assistant. One fateful June afternoon, Bell spilled battery acid on his clothes. He yelled into his transmitter, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Watson, down the hall, heard it clearly through the receiver. Not a code, not a buzz. Words. Bell had done it. He transmitted intelligible speech electrically. He rushed to the patent office that very morning, February 14th, Valentine's Day, fittingly enough, and filed his patent. Hours later, Elisha Gray filed a caveat, a kind of placeholder patent, for a strikingly similar device. Cue over a century of historical debate. Who really invented the telephone? Bell got the patent. Gray got, well, a footnote. And Antonio Meucci? He demonstrated a voice communication device years earlier, but couldn't afford the patent fee. History's messy, folks. But March 10th, 1876 is generally celebrated as the day the telephone was born, not for chatting about the latest bonnet, but for proving that sound could ride electricity. The world would never be quiet again. Development and international calls, from noisy parlors to transatlantic whispers. Early telephones were earnest, clumsy, loud, a bulky wooden box mounted on a wall. You spoke into a horn-like mouthpiece, then had to snap a switch to listen through a separate earpiece. Talk, then listen. Talk, then listen. It was less conversation and more walkie-talkie with manners. And the noise. Early systems used single wires grounded through the earth, which meant your conversation happily shared space with telegraph signals, streetcar arcs, and the occasional lightning storm. Imagine trying to discuss your aunt's rheumatism while a Morse code tap dance solo played in the background. Enter the switchboard. Suddenly you didn't need a direct wire to every person you knew. You called a central office. A human operator, often a young woman, deemed to have pleasant voices and nimble fingers, society's charmingly reductive logic, would plug cords into a massive board, connecting your line to theirs. Number Please became the soundtrack of urban life. Operators weren't just pluggers, they were early network managers, gossip hubs, discreetly hopefully, and sometimes emergency coordinators. During disasters, they'd stay at their boards, connecting calls for help long after others fled. But how do you call London from Lima? Or Chicago from Chennai? You needed wires that wouldn't quit. Undersea cables. Remember those? They started with telegraph in the 1850s. Shout out to the transatlantic telegraph cable that worked for about 3 weeks before failing spectacularly. Turns out saltwater and 19th century insulation were not best friends. But for voice, you needed better insulation, amplifiers to boost the fading signal over vast distances, and cables tough enough to survive anchors. Sharks? Yes, really. Early cables sometimes got nibbled, and the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. The breakthrough came with loading coils, invented by Michael Pupin and independently by George Campbell. Little inductors wrapped along the line that acted like signal boosters, preventing the high-frequency sounds of speech from fading out. Then, in 1956, TAT-1 launched, the first transatlantic telephone cable. No more relying on crackly, expensive radio links that worked only when the ionosphere behaved. TAT-1 carried 36 simultaneous voice calls between Newfoundland and Scotland. Suddenly, calling your cousin in Dublin wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime event reserved for emergencies or the ultra-wealthy. It became plausible. Expensive? Yes. A 3-minute call cost roughly $12, about $130 today. But possible. The world shrank a little more. Operators still connected these international calls manually for years, patching you through across continents like human routers. Imagine the concentration. London calling, standby for Glasgow, now routing to Sydney via Singapore. It was a global game of telephone, played with patch cords and serious focus. If you're enjoying this journey through the telephone, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and warms my soul. Next, let's look at going wireless. When the cord got cut and we started talking to our shoes. Ah, the sweet, sweet freedom of no cords. But wireless telephony didn't start with your pocket supercomputer. It started in cars. Yes, really, imagine a 1940s luxury automobile. Not just a radio, but a telephone bolted to the dashboard. You needed a massive antenna on the roof, a trunk full of vacuum tube equipment, hot, heavy, prone to eating car batteries for breakfast, and you better hope you weren't driving through a tunnel. These early mobile telephone services, MTS, were limited to a few channels per city, meaning if all the lines were busy, you waited, and hoped your important call about the stock market or your mistress's alibi wasn't bumped by someone chatting about the weather. The real revolution came from Bell Labs. In 1947, engineers proposed a radical idea: divide a city into small hexagonal cells, each with its own base station and set of frequencies. As you move from one cell to another, your call would seamlessly hand off, like passing a baton in a relay race. This was the cellular concept. But the technology to make it work, reliable transistors, compact electronics, sophisticated switching, wasn't ready for decades. Then, on April 3rd, 1973, Martin Cooper, a Motorola engineer, stepped onto a New York City sidewalk. He pulled out a device that looked like a brick wrapped in beige plastic, the Dynatac 8000X. It weighed 2.5 pounds, offered 20 minutes of talk time after a 10-hour charge, and cost nearly $4,000. He made the first public handheld cellular phone call to his rival at Bell Labs, Joel Engel. Can you imagine Engel's face? The first words spoken on a public mobile call weren't about pizza or the weather. They were a polite, slightly smug. Joel, this is Marty Cooper. I'm calling you from a cell phone, a real handheld portable cell phone. Mic drop. The brick phone era had begun. For the next decade, cell phones were status symbols for yuppies and drug dealers. The latter appreciated the mobility. They were big, expensive, and the networks were still analog, prone to eavesdropping. Just tune your radio to the right frequency. But the genie was out of the bottle. The cord was cut. We were no longer tethered to the wall. We could talk, while walking, while standing in line, while arguably ignoring the people right in front of us. Progress? Modern day. Your phone is a supercomputer that also makes calls, sometimes. Look at that slab in your hand again. It's not just a phone, it's your camera, your map, your library, your game console, your bank, your TV, your alarm clock. And yes, it can still make calls. But how? The analog brick phones are long gone. We're digital now. Your voice gets sampled thousands of times a second, turned into numbers, ones and zeros, compressed, encrypted, and shoved into packets. Tiny digital envelopes. These packets don't care if they're carrying your voice, a cat video, or your latest tweet. They all zip through the same internet-powered infrastructure. Your phone talks to the nearest cell tower using radio waves, specific frequencies licensed to carriers. That tower connects to the core network, a vast web of fiber optic cables, the modern supercharged descendants of those undersea telegraph lines, and data centers. If you're calling someone on the same network, it might stay relatively local. If you're calling internationally, your voice packets might hop across undersea fiber optic cables. Modern ones carry terabits per second, enough for millions of simultaneous calls, or bounce off satellites. Then at the other end, the process reverses. Packets are reassembled, decompressed, decrypted, turned back into an analog signal, and fed into the recipient's speaker. All in milliseconds. And it's not just voice calls anymore. We have VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. Think Skype, WhatsApp, FaceTime, where your voice travels purely as data over the internet, bypassing traditional phone networks entirely. We have video calls, where your face joins the party. We have AI screening spam calls, bless those algorithms. Real-time translation, suddenly arguing about pizza toppings in Milan is easier. And even phones that can sense your heartbeat or blood oxygen levels. The telephone, once a single-purpose device for transmitting sound, has become the Swiss Army knife of communication, and its original function, while still vital, is often just one app among many. We've gone from needing an operator to connect us to needing a Wi-Fi password to feel connected. The irony? We're more capable of global conversation than ever, yet sometimes struggle to talk to the person sitting next to us. The future. What's next for the human voice in the machine? So where do we go from here? The brick phone to the smartphone was a leap. What's the next bound? Seamless integration. Imagine your glasses, or even a subtle implant picking up sub-vocalizations, the tiny muscle movements when you think words, and transmitting them silently. No speaking aloud needed. Private thoughts shared instantly. Privacy implications? Oh boy, we'll need a whole other video for that. Holographic presence. Forget flat video. What if your call projected a lifelike 3D hologram of the other person into your living room? You could reach out, virtually, and shake hands. Distance becomes less about miles and more about bandwidth. Neural links. Elon Musk's Neuralink and others are experimenting with direct brain-computer interfaces. Could we one day call someone by simply thinking of them, with the system decoding intent and stimulating the recipient's auditory cortex to perceive the message? Sound like sci-fi? So did wireless voice calls to Bell and Watson. Beyond voice. Maybe the future isn't just about sending voice better. Maybe it's about richer context, sharing not just words, but emotional tone via haptic feedback, a gentle pulse on your wrist conveying urgency, or ambient environment, letting your friend hear the cafe buzz behind you as you chat. The core drive hasn't changed since Bell yelled into that transmitter. We crave connection. We want to be heard, to understand, to share a laugh or a tear across the miles. The telephone, in all its evolving forms, is just the tool we've built to bridge that gap. It's a testament to human ingenuity, taking the ephemeral magic of our voices and harnessing physics, engineering, and sheer stubbornness to make it travel farther, faster, and clearer than nature ever intended. So next time you curse your dropped call, remember, you're frustrated because you expect to talk to someone on the other side of the planet as easily as chatting with your neighbor. That expectation is the highest compliment we can pay to the inventors, the engineers, the operators, the linemen, the coders, and the dreamers who turned a scientific curiosity into the invisible thread that weaves our world together. The telephone isn't just wires and waves, it's us, reaching out. If you enjoyed this journey from spilt acid to satellite selfies, please smash that like button. It helps the algorithm show this video to more curious minds like yours. And if you haven't already, subscribe to What Is and ring that notification bell. We've got a whole universe of what is questions waiting to be explored. Now before you go, and before you hit that sweet subscribe button, I've got a bonus fact for you. Something that didn't quite fit in the main story, but is too delightfully weird not to share. Bonus fact. The very first telephone switchboard, installed in 1878 in New Haven, Connecticut, had an unexpected problem. The operators kept getting married. Why? Because the job was considered respectable, well paid for women at the time, and required excellent manners and a clear voice, traits highly prized in potential brides. Within a year, nearly half the original operators had left the switchboard for the altar. Talk about making connections. See you next time.